has been discussed in the HR meeting to allowing the city council, if they would like to do the ride-along. And it was a council decision earlier to disband that, but it would be nice to have it back in there so that our council members can see what our fire department, our street department, our police department all do and go through on a shift. With Bill brought this up the other night, and wanted to check to see if we could go ahead and have that changed.
I'll make the motion.
We got a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Is this to allow council members only or city employees?
Any city employee, isn't it? Isn't that what we discussed earlier today? I mean, that's the council decision, that's,
The problem before was that.
Is there a liability or insurance?
Non-city people involved in it.
Okay.
And so I guess as long as it's citywide, we're okay.
Yeah, so, city employees, which we're all elected city employees.
Okay.
And so, okay,
Employees too.
yeah,
I'm fine with that.
okay, all right. All right, approval of the ordinance for amending the International Fuel Code, Gas Code regarding cutoff of natural gas services, because of copper pipe. I do know we've had one request, if someone would like to speak right before you read this. Jerry, is that all right?
Sure.
All right. Mr. Tracy?
I had to write this down, and wife proofread it for. Anyway, my name is Tracy Smith, and I'm a resident of Kennett since 1968. I live at 914 Pruitt Street in Ward 5. On Wednesday morning, August the 19th, my fingers moving too quick. On Wednesday morning, August the 19th, two gentlemen from the Kennett City Light Gas and Water came to my door, and they said that they were going to change out the gas meter to a new one. The gas would be out a little while, and they would get it back on and relight my water heater. And when the guys got finished, well, they come in and knocked on the door and wanted to relight the pilots, and they went back to the water heater, and they told me they couldn't relight it because I had copper coming in. And so it didn't meet the city code, they said, and it would have to be brought up to code before it was reconnected. I do realize that they were doing their jobs the way they had been instructed for safety reasons. They were very polite, professional, sympathetic, and showed concern. I did make calls, and I talked to several people trying to get my gas back on immediately with the agreement that I would bring things up to date as soon as I could get someone to do the work. And all entities involved were passing the buck one to another, but all agreed that it was not the proper way to do a meter change. Everyone was blaming each other on the way it was done. The gas does not get turned back on. So I go from August the 19th until the 28th without gas to my water heater, my cook stove, my bathroom. And I feel it was no fault of mine that this happened. City Light Gas and Water said that a notice had been sent out with a statement months ago. With my inquiring around to people that I know, about 40% of them actually read the full statements made on the bill. Most people, like myself or my wife, writes out the check and pays the bill. And I don't think it's the proper way to do this sort of thing, and I think the City Light Gas and Water should make a personal contact with the homeowner, telling them in so many days the gas meter will be scheduled to be changed out, and they need to make sure all lines are upgraded to the new specs. If things are not upgraded at that particular time, then the meter would be red tagged. No surprise to anyone. Put yourself in my spot, and what do you think about the situation? I understand everyone has their job to do and has certain responsibilities, but this might not be the proper way to achieve the upgrade needed on many homes throughout the city. I urge you to make a change to avoid future problems. You cannot get your gas meter red tagged and get the line replaced in the same day, or even in my case the same month. I encourage all involved to make a change in the way that this situation will be handled in the future for the betterment of the citizens of Kennett. Since this incident occurred the way it has, I think most agree it needed to be approached in a different manner. An agreement was reached between the city and myself. My gas would be restored at that time on the 28th with the agreement if a new ordinance was not passed or talked about tonight and agreed upon, my meter would be red tagged in the morning. I do appreciate those who have done anything or had anything to do with the decision to permit my gas to be restored. I have the work scheduled to be done by a most reputable local heating and cooling business here in town. I have not had the corrections made at this time, but they will get me up and running and according to code as soon as they can get to me. They said probably within the next 10 days from now, weather permitting. And I urge all of you again to try to make a change in whatever way you see fit that would better the situation. And I thank you for listening.
You have an estimated cost, Tracy?
Pardon?
Mr. Smith, do you have an estimated cost?
Sky's the limit. I don't know yet. It doesn't matter. Because, like I say, I contacted at least 7 different people trying to get this job done. They have to crawl under the house as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And if like me, you can't get under the house.
Right, okay.
Or, and you don't want to get under the
I'm
house.
not.
And so, then a lot of people just are too covered up. You know, I was suggested by one person, you need to get somebody from out of town. One of the city employees said, you need to get somebody from out of town to do it. I said, no, I'm going to keep it local if at all possible.
Thank you.
But anyway.
I was just curious, thank
The
you.
lowest I've been told by people who have called me is $1,200. That's been about the average, and that's kind of been my concern too, is I've looked at it from the fiscal end. I had a woman call me, telling me it might well have been $1 million, so she couldn't come up with the 1,200. And so that's a concern that we have, figuring out how we're gonna deal with that.
Yes, I know, Mr. Dave Wilkins and I were talking the other day, and Jim Green is supposed to be in contact with Dayon and Caring Council. I contacted Mitzi Dell as a grant writer to find out if there's anything out there. And from that conversation I had with her, our biggest problem is our utilities are owned by the city. And she goes, that cuts down a lot of the amount of grants that are out there. But has Jim gotten back with you with anything with Dayoc or Caring Council yet? Or?
No, sir, we haven't heard anything back positive.
Okay.
We're still working.
Yeah. So it's going to be one of the things where, you know, some local churches or anything else, community groups out there, it's part of this ordinance tonight is going to help with this situation, especially seeing that, you know, days like today are pretty nice for the temperature, but eventually they're going to get colder than this. And so we're going to have quite a few things to work on. But it's, at least this is a step, I think, hopefully in the right direction.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
again, everyone acted very polite and professional, and no one acted out of line as far as that goes. It was kind of comical in a way, you know, that, well, this was an ordinance, no, this is the gas, no, this is the city. But, you know, those things happen. But overall, I've tried to keep my cool about it, and I think I've done pretty good. But it's not like me.
You were taking cold showers, you had to.
Okay, and what this ordinance does is whenever they go to say the situation like happened to Tracy, whenever a city like Gas and Water goes to replace a meter and they find the brass or copper piping, instead of an automatic termination, they give a written notice, written 90-day notice to bring it up to code before service is terminated. So, first reading is an ordinance providing for a notice of not less than 90 days before terminating natural gas service for using copper or brass piping.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Second reading is an ordinance providing for notice of not less than 90 days before terminating natural gas service for using copper or brass piping.
Discussion.
Discussion.
This does not include if there is a leak or something that's found otherwise, correct?
No,
This is just for the,
only for the violation of that section of the International Fuel Gas Code, which prohibits the use of copper and brass piping. That's only for those, in those situations.
Question. Mr. Wilkins, do you ballpark figure know how many homes in the city rely on natural gas?
We have 3,800 meters. Now, most of those are in the city. We have a few that's in Friendship and up the road, but not that many, but total there's 3,800 meters.
Do we know how many businesses are qualified to come in and change piping in a house? Local businesses here.
Mr. Smith might have a good explanation of that. You probably talked
You mentioned
about-
700 earlier.
No one was willing to give out a list of any particular names or anything, any businesses that I'd contacted. And so, you know, good luck, Chuck, you know, finding somebody to do it. Like I say, a lot of it has to do, I'm sure, with the situation. Like I say, someone had to crawl under my house and, say,
Well, it's either gonna be someone has to crawl under a house or crawl in someone's attic.
yeah,
I mean,
or go up in the attic.
Either way, I was just sitting here doing some math on that, and I'm not sure that 90 days is gonna be enough time, because there's a lot of these houses in Kennett that are gonna have copper in
How
it.
quick does it take?
How many meters have been upgraded already?
800.
800.
So we got
we're
3,000
about
to go.
3,000 to be inspected.
How many out of that 800 were issued? One?
No.
Victor would know.
Victor, you know?
100?
No. As of right now, I looked, I've got around 20 open red tags for, pressure tests. I mean,
Out of the 800.
yeah, still open. That's open. That's not how many I've had out of the 800.
No, all right, how many out of that 800 had copper tubing we made change?
I don't know.
400?
No.
200?
No. Probably, I'm going to, just a guess,
Probably 10%.
50 to 60.
That's less than.
So far, you've been doing the newer homes, correct?
That was gonna be my next question.
Yes,
is what
sir.
parts of town
As
we
I
were working
understand
in?
it, my director of field operations is here. I think we've kind of hit the areas that we saturated the areas that we thought were not going to have copper, like the housing authority. All that's up to code, and so you could just go in there and rapidly change meters. Do I need to say something else on that? Was that right?
That and some of the newer subdivisions, we kind of tapped on those. But we knew that over a period of time, we was gonna start hitting copper. But honestly, no clue how many's out there. 10%, maybe.
So if we got 1,000 houses that gotta do this,
90 days is not gonna
90
be
days,
enough
not
time.
gonna cut it.
can the ordinance be, or can the 90 days be extended?
And
They
900,
they all not gonna be inspected at the same time.
Can
Yeah.
I say something?
Yeah, sure.
My only question with that is, of course, my job is code, and I don't necessarily like to see the code lessened. Because in my opinion, it puts the liability on the city when you do that. The codes are there as a minimum standard, and if you do anything less than that, it's substandard. My question for this is, if you think that 90 days, can that 90 days not be given before the meter is changed to allow them time to do it? And that way, you're not messing with the code.
Put them on a list, then move to the next one.
Or say, send something out to a group of houses that says in 90 days, within 90, or after 90-day period, we will be starting this area to change meters. I mean, I know that they don't wanna be 90 days behind to what they are right now.
Still gonna have to have somebody come in and look. I mean,
Yes, but my thing is, it's better for a plumber to come in and look if they're not certain, and get that taken care of, because really by the way the code is if myself or City Light Gas and Water, if they see that there is copper, they have to shut it off, because if they don't shut it off, then that puts the liability, you know, if you see it and let it go, you're responsible for it. If you give them 90 days, if it burns or blows up and kills, I mean, somebody's gonna come back on you.
I understand.
So that's my only concern.
And that's a good point.
When y'all check the meters, do y'all do it by computer, like when you read them? Or does somebody physically go out and check the gas meters now?
It's a mixture of both. The 800 that were replaced are computer read now. The 3,000 that haven't been are manually read.
So can they tell from outside of the house if there's copper?
No.
Not always. All right. I'm just trying to figure out how big of a massive issue this is gonna be.
It's pretty large, because even so, if you have all these fixed income,
4 people can replace all that?
fixed income people
Gas pipe.
hiring a plumber to come in and paying them $80 for a service call.
You mean,
It's not gonna happen.
Requiring, yeah, like
Yeah.
reeds and all the heat and air guys.
Yeah.
It's about any plumber, heat, air.
Heat and air,
Four or
yeah.
five people.
$4 is
It's a lot of money to a lot of people.
a month and a half's income, so.
Sure. With COVID stuff.
It's better than 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. I know, I'm just trying to think of everything involved here.
You also throw that $1,200 on top of $550 rent. And
Well, now if it's rental,
Yeah,
if it's rental, that's landlord.
Yeah.
So, I wish we knew what was copper in.
So that copper is in concrete or is it in crawl space?
Either.
Or it can be in
It
either
can
one?
be any of it.
They gotta bust the concrete up?
No.
Run the street around.
What they'll do, they'll go around it. Yeah, copper and concrete is even on top of just it being there is worse. Because concrete leaves from the outside and the gas eats it from the inside.
Chief, thing,
With the 90 days, if something terrible was to happen, whose responsibility? Who's liable?
Not the city.
Murma says,
No, we discussed it with Merle, and they're the ones that suggested tonight, since this is the code, the adoption of the code is voluntary, and it was their suggestion to have a 90-day notice period.
Who would be responsible?
The homeowner.
the homeowner.
Everybody, I mean, there's not liability every time something happens.
Okay.
I was even willing to sign some sort of waiver, you know, relieving anybody from any kind of responsibility of anything that happened to my house within, I said 10 days. I thought it would take less than 10 days, but it was, you know, within a certain period of time to relieve anybody from any responsibility, have it notarized, whatever we had to do, you know. But, you know, things happen, and I understand everyone's point of view on it. Like I say, again, I appreciate anything you're gonna do for the future.
Could there be a list of qualified people to do this repair published?
yeah, we can work on that.
You know, that would be,
That would be helpful.
It would be, because a lot of these people are not gonna have a clue who to call. They're gonna probably call City Light Gas and Water.
Well, how many meters does City Light Gas and Water replace per month? Or update per month?
I think they wanted to do it all.
Yeah.
Eventually they want to do them all, but what rate are they doing now? How many are they doing a week or a month?
I think they was wanting to do them all within the next couple of months.
We could,
No.
That's not gonna work.
What we've done probably over the last month is somewhere around 150.
Okay,
Um,
so it's going to take a little bit of time.
Yes.
So those 90 days, they're not 90 days from today. It's 90 days from the day you do the
It's
inspection.
90
am I
days
correct?
from contact.
Right.
Okay.
I
I think that would be plenty of time.
I mean, is it though?
still the financial end of it.
Well,
If
the
it's a
financial
landlord,
end is
maybe.
different.
There may be some.
Yeah, I understand that part, but the 90 days,
We better find
hopefully with a little bit of, we can hit the radio, we've got the newspaper here, Facebook, if Sea Light Gas and Water can put some more articles out there on the Facebook pages. You know, do a social media blitz with this to bring everybody, because it's probably gonna be more along the lines of grandma's house is not gonna come up to code. But is she on Facebook? Probably not, but she's got kids or grandkids that are, hey grandma, we saw this.
Maybe.
Maybe, hopefully. And we're still, no matter what direction we go, the letter that went out in January 2019, I didn't read it.
Kids in the county.
Yeah, but hopefully we can get some, you know, publicity out there on this issue, and people can start to look and see if they know the difference between what copper looks like, what black pipe, and knowing that you can have it, what is it, 3 feet, black pipe out of the floor, and then from there to your hot water tank or your ventless heater or whatever it's going to, is a 3-foot piece of flex pipe, copper pipe.
Wait, is it in one location, like if you have a gas water heater or a gas dryer or a gas stove? Is it in a particular place?
Some are run throughout. I believe Tracy's, I don't know what's under his house, but I know that it's coming through the floor to each appliance.
Okay.
So it may be black pipe under there and it's just stubbed off with a piece of copper to each appliance. It may be something fairly simple.
Are
And
you
it
allowed
may be copper the whole way.
Are you allowed any portion of that to be copper?
Yes, from the shut-off valve
Uh-huh.
to the appliance,
Okay.
as long as it's within 3 feet.
3 feet, okay. So you're talking about the main line then,
Yes.
has to be black pipe?
Anything that goes through the hard surface.
Okay.
I have a question, to get the list of people who can check this. Is it plumbers, heat and air, and who else, who's qualified? We'll get that list,
Yeah,
That's pretty much it.
just those?
And I do know, talking with Sea Light Gas and Water, that, you know, the main supplier of gas, that under the, was it PSE code, that you can have copper, but it has to have 0.3 or less sulfur hydroxide?
Hydrogen sulfur.
Okay, hydrogen sulfur. And that their main supplier, you know, does, but there's also other suppliers that put into there, and they can't guarantee what their levels are. So, if we just had one supplier, that would be a big helper, but, you know, there's a lot of different companies that fill that line that comes to Kennett. And it's, you know, what is it, a 6-inch main, one of them with 300 PSI of gas coming through there. So it takes quite a bit of natural gas to fill it. So is this gonna fix everything? Probably not, but it's at least a step in the right direction, hoping that, I know like at our church, you know, if somebody was, you know, we'd have someone, we'd try and help somebody out. It's just hopefully through, maybe there might be some grants out there, something we can keep looking for, to help